the writer, director, and editor of the film, Sean Baker.
Thank you.
He plays one of the most despicable characters, but I promise you he's one of the greatest men of all time, Simon Rex. Too beautiful for words, Brie Elrod. You'll never look at strawberries the same way again, Susanna Sun. And a woman with a plan, she don't take no shit, Brittany Rodriguez. She put him in his place. So, Sean, let's have a talk, man. Congratulations on the movie. Congratulations on all your success. Why Red Rocket and why now at this point in your career?
Okay. Thank you. Red Rocket really is a COVID film in two ways. Not only shot during COVID, but shot due to COVID. Because I was actually prepping for another film for over 2 years, a much bigger film up in Vancouver. And, COVID put an end to that real quick. And we had Red Rocket sitting on the back burner for over 5 years. It stems from research that my co-screenwriter, Chris Brigash, and I did in the adult film world almost 10 years ago for another film called Starlet, which I made before Tangerine. So it's like four films back. But it was... I met characters, I met men like Mikey Saber while doing research, and I consider them almost this archetype, because I met about a handful of these men, and there's the slang term that's used at the end of the film, suitcase pimp, is that an actual term used within the adult film industry, and it's a slang term meant for these guys, these guys who live off the female talent in the adult film industry. And there was something about their character, I mean, their psyche that truly, it very complex, and it really stuck with me. It disturbed me because I would hang out with these men during the day while doing research, and I would be entertained by them and charmed by them. They were funny, entertaining guys. But then I would be driving home at night thinking, oh my God, but what did all that stuff they just told me? It's just so despicable. How could I be even laughing? How could I even have stayed 2 minutes in a room with that guy? So I felt very, very conflicted. And I felt that, I had never seen a character like this before in film and TV, and I really wanted to, Chris and I really wanted to delve in and really dive in and really just and do a character study of one of these men. So it was sitting on the back burner for years, and when this other film didn't happen, we just pivoted and said, let's make Red Rocket. We can do it now. It can be small, contained, and we can do it safely. Let's tackle this. That's how it came about.
Well, we're glad you did it.
Thanks.
Mr. Rex, I love your story of you just sitting home in California and someone calls you and says, drive to Texas. So let's hear that story of how you got summoned for this role.
Yeah, so I was basically, this was about a year ago in July, right before we shot. I was sitting around in Joshua Tree. I just moved there, and obviously this was in a weird time with the pandemic, and there was a lot of, just the world was going crazy, and I was just wondering what was going on with my career and then life and what was going on, and out of the blue, I get a phone call from, so Sean's sister, Stefanik, who works on all his films, was mutual friends with a friend of mine. She called me and said, hey, do you know who Sean Baker is? I was like, yeah, of course. And she's like, what are you doing for the next month? And I was like, nothing. We're in a pandemic, and I'm sitting in the desert. And she said, okay, he's interested in you for a film, so I'm going to connect you. So he sent me a small paragraph from the opening scene where I show up at Bree's home to get in, and I basically just put it on my iPhone in my kitchen. An hour later, I sent it to him, and long story short, he said, I need you in Texas immediately. I can't fly you here because we'd have to quarantine you, so can you drive here in 3 days? We rented you a car. So I went to the local rent-a-car enterprise near where I lived, and I just drove, and as you saw, that was a lot of dialogue to memorize really quick, and I just basically drove for 3 days and just like worked on the material. And I actually think that the lack of preparation and overthinking worked because I'm someone that overthinks, and we just went, and during, like he said, shooting during a pandemic, like it's hard enough to shoot a movie on this budget in 24 days, was it? Much less during a pandemic. There was just a lot of things going against us, but that just kind of kept us on edge. You know, I've done movies where you have a big trailer with the AC and this and that, and we didn't have those comforts, but I think that helped the energy, like through the, I don't want to sound like too actory, but like it's all energy, and you could feel the energy through the movie of us kind of riding that edge the whole time. So I think it worked to our benefit that it was just like a last minute thing. And, you know, thank you, Sean, because I was not sure what I was doing with my life, and now here we are.
Well, thank you for driving. Now, he showed up with all of his monologues, all of those Mikey Saber rants memorized. And I was like, who drove? I don't understand. Yeah.
You drove
It was
safely, right?
it was
Like, there wasn't a
dangerous.
car
I was
crash.
driving and reading at the same time, I will admit. That was dangerous, but I was studying and driving
caused
simultaneously.
a
It's a very
pileup.
rare skill.
It's the best. Bree. Bree, who's a very, very talented theater actress. You guys need to know Bree. Sean is so good at just finding people of the world that fits his story. In particular, Brenda, who plays your mother in the film, is just like pitch perfect. Can you talk about that dynamic between you and her? Because in a lot of ways, it is the emotional pillar of the movie that allows the audience to connect with anything in a dramatic way.
Sure. It was really, truly such a gift to work with Brenda. She's from Texas City, and she grew up there, and I felt like I had done a ton of research. But it wasn't until I got there and I met Brenda that I really thought, oh, okay, she is giving me so much about what it's like to live, and same with Britt and other people who live in the area. But Brenda was so wonderful, and between takes she would just tell us these long stories about growing up there and the hardships she faced and what it was like to grow up there. And it really was just such a beautiful and generous thing for her to do, and I feel like we all learned so much about that world that we were able to inhabit it in a completely different way.
Cool. Thank you. Susie, you sing like an angel, first of all. Like, amazing, amazing, talented musician. The story of Sean finding you is one of my favorite stories. I need you to tell it.
Okay, so I had just moved to Los Angeles from Seattle. I had only been there like 9 or 10 days, and I was at the ArcLight Theater seeing He Won't Get Very Far on Foot, and I just ran into Sean Baker, or he walked up to me with his wife, and he said, "Hi, would you like to audition for a movie? Here's my email," and he gave it to me on a piece of paper that I still have. And that was, I think, 3 years ago. So it took some time, but it was amazing, yeah.
And when you showed up, because the story, he called you 3 years later. It wasn't supposed to be this, because Sean will go up to random people and say, like, I have an idea for you down the line sometimes. So when you finally got that call, what went through your mind at that point? Because you were also in the middle of a pandemic.
I was just so grateful, and I had no idea it would be such a big deal. He pitched it to me like, "Do you want to do this small Guerrilla? It's a small thing. It's not, it's not a big deal." So I had no idea. And then we premiered at Cannes.
That's great. Brittany, you put Simon in his place in the movie in a very, very satisfying way, showing the toughness of women in this community and toughness of women, period. and provide a lot of the audience's view of the, I would say the disgust of like what he stands for. How did you connect with that, and in connection to your own community?
That's a nice question. You won't make my brain hurt thinking. Well, first of all, thank you to Sean. He's seen something in me, and I'm glad I was able to bring that through to the screen.
Thank you.
I think it was, no problem. Thank you. I think it's very important to have women of power on screen. It's good to have representation. I'm pretty sure that there's something that you felt and you thought you were the only one until you heard somebody else say it. So being able to read the script, it kind of made me feel the same way. And I ended up pulling from my younger self when I was more aggressive, when I would snap easy. And so I kind of brought a little bit of my younger self. It was able to relate that. And so I was able to bring that to the screen and just give it to him. Like, I felt like it was only right, and I was able to display that. And
You did a great job.
I hope that answered the question.
You did a great job. Nope, it did. Absolutely. Thank you.
Can I also just say that Brittany, being from the Houston area, helped us so much with research and accuracy and fact checking us and telling us when dialogue was working and when it wasn't. Sometimes we'd look for a line that I felt didn't have that local flair. And for example, Leandria pointing out the fact that Mikey's accent changed. I went around and I said, anybody have a better line than just a generic, where's your accent? And Brittany came up with the line, you sound brand new. So, this it was a great collaboration, and I just love this cast so much.
Awesome. No. Can we talk a little bit about, I've always been curious to talk to you about the symbolism of the ending in particular, because it's enigmatic, but it's also it also could be exactly what it is. Did you play around with any different endings with the script?
Yes. We did. We actually had quite the literal ending. I won't reveal what that is, because part of interpreting the ending could be like, what is happening? This obviously is not happening, but what is happening? So we did have a few literal endings. And again, it just felt like, why? That's an obvious ending. That's where, there's only so many ways this can end up, and they're all kind of, why do we need to see those? A little boring to watch. So to come up with something that's a little bit more perhaps even in the head of Mikey is what I was experimenting with. And we actually figured it out, I think, in the first week of production, or just like a week before production.
The most important question I can ask you right now, where's the dog?
Oh, yeah,
Where's
Sophie.
the dog?
Sophie, she's in Hollywood. She's literally in Hollywood. She's from there. When we found her, she had heartworm and a major hip issue, which would basically, when she was attacked one night by a coyote, we brought her to the vet, and they said she has 6 months. And our producer found a family in Hollywood, and they adopted her, and now she's free of heartworm, doing wonderfully. And her best friend is a golden retriever, right?
She has an Instagram page too.
She has an
So
Instagram page.
You can follow
Yes,
Sophie.
yes. She would appreciate the follow.
Is her real name Sophie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the handle is. We'll look it up.
Opening this up a little bit to anyone who wants to answer, but I'm going to chuck it to Simon first. Sean says he knows guys like this. Did you know guys like this? And did you feel as dirty to portray Mikey Saber as it is for us to watch Mikey Saber?
Yeah, so he basically showed me some footage of some of the archetypes he was talking about, of some of the character studies that he had done, and I watched about 10 minutes of an interview of one of these characters in the world that he explored, and after about 10 minutes of watching the guy, I was like, I get it. I know a lot of people like this in Hollywood, like, sociopathic, narcissistic people who don't care who they hurt in order to get what they want. Which is fun to play the anti-hero. There's not enough movies where it's a bad guy that you're rooting for. So I just really wanted to make him, because when I read the script, I was like, oh, this guy's horrible. How is the audience going to root for him? So I just made the choice to make him, somewhat boyish and maybe kiss ass, likable. Maybe he doesn't know what he's doing, so the audience is conflicted of why am I rooting for this guy? But I know a lot of people like this, obviously living in Hollywood for 20 years. There's a lot of delusional people that think, the world revolves around them, and I think that everyone can relate because everyone knows this guy. So yeah, it was easy to kind of tap into it and portray this person. So that's kind of what I got from it, yeah.
Susie, this question's really just for me. I just need to know this. Did you know who NSYNC was before you took this role? I just need to know if you knew who they were. You did, okay, good. How do we get Bye 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 into this movie? Because just opening the movie with Bye 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 makes you lose your mind.
Part of the reason was Susie, actually, because I found out that Susanna is a great musician, can sing, and so we said, obviously, we have to have her perform in the film, and so we started looking for songs that contextually fit, and we were going through every breakup song. I mean, it was like a constant thread, texts, like hundreds of songs, Hit the Road, Jack, one of the, like that stuff, and then we were just like, wait a minute, though. NSYNC is just so perfect. The lyrics actually work with the film. It works with the timeline. That song came out in 1999, probably at the time that Lexi and Mikey were off to pursue their career in Hollywood. It just felt right, and so cost 1/10 of the budget, and all five members had to sign off on it. Yeah.
Yeah, they all had to watch it. They all had to sit and watch it.
They had to watch the last scene, not the whole movie, but the last scene, because it's the only scene in which we're manipulating their music and attaching it to a picture. So in the music contract, they actually had to visually approve of it. So they've seen the last scene.
Because if they might have seen the naked running scene, they might have
No, it was in the script.
way.
They read the script.
Nope.
I was very clear.
By the way, greatest streaking scene since Old School, by the way. It's awesome. It's so great. Bree, a question for you. As you were finding your character, and again, the woman loves this man, but there's obviously a lot of pain. There's undertones of depression. There's obviously drug use. There's also then this love between her and her mother, the way she does your hair. Did you feel that like she was gonna make it in the end? Because she's a question mark for us at the end. We don't know how she's gonna end up.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, the whole sabotage gives me hope that Lexi has some power in the end and that she's gonna figure it out. And she has the money, but there's something about that. I think if it just would have ended in that way where he's leaving and we don't know what happens, it would have been a completely different story for her. But I think her journey is so interesting because you do have to kind of understand, for me anyway, why she lets him back in. I mean, the whole story could have been completely different had she just shut the door and said, get out. But you hear her little flip-flops go to him. She actually walks to him in that first scene. And that says a lot about her pull, his pull, to her. So I think that was a really interesting thing to explore. Like, why does she let him in? And what is it about him that she's attracted to, and that she is, there's something familiar about it for her. And I think that was really a fun thing to navigate.
What was the hardest scene for you guys to shoot? And shout out to Drew Daniels, the DP, who is incredible cinematographer. Yes. What was the hardest shot or hardest scene to shoot besides streaking?
Well, physically, the streaking scene, because we were hiding from police and locals.
No permits on that one.
Yeah, we had no permits.
Yeah.
There was a moment where, at the last scene where I was running nude, that we actually had to jump back into the production van, and cops came with a flashlight, and I had to put on a robe, and they were questioning us, but they were cool.
But we told them, but we're that independent film crew that went to the police department and tried to get permission, and you guys didn't care, which was true. And they said, oh, yeah, you're those guys. Oh, hey, go.
They were
go.
cool.
And then we realized all they care about around the refineries is terrorism. That's it. So we could do whatever we want. And so after that, we felt very comfortable shooting for the next 2 weeks. But for 2 weeks, we were pretty nervous.
Yeah, it was definitely guerrilla filmmaking, which I thought was fun, and it kind of added to the craziness. But yeah, that was definitely challenging.
The driving shots were challenging because we were being very precise with the way that we were laterally driving with those on a technical level.
Sean has credit. If you look, that says.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
What
I'm
is
a
it?
precision driver on this film.
Yeah, yeah.
We had no crew. I had to do it.
We had a 10-person crew, which is very small, so it was a very tight-knit family. Yeah.
But,
So the crew deserves so much credit because they were doing.
They were basically all of the producers wearing many hats. Shi Ching-zo, who has produced almost every one of my films. In this film, she's not only acting, she's in Donut Hole. She's Miss Fan. But she is costume design, she's continuity, and she's, what else?
My driver, she drove me.
Script supervisor.
She drove me from New York.
Continuity, and one
Sam,
other.
Sam, your wife was not only makeup, but she was also the acting
Effects
coach for
makeup,
these
yeah.
first-time actors. Not non-actors, first-time actors, because they are actors and they did so well. But yeah, Sam gave them a crash course in acting, so by the time they showed up on set, they were prepared. And that's a lot, for these people that never been on set before. There's a lot of technicalities that, you got to learn pretty quick, and it somehow worked out with our tight schedule.
It's awesome. I have one last question for all of you. What gifts will you take from this movie, this experience, with you moving forward? Because this is obviously something that was very special to all of you, means different things, for you during a very difficult time. What's the one thing you're going to take with you moving forward?
So I'll go first. So I went from walking my dog to now. My first premiere was in Cannes because of Red Rocket. Not only did I act in the movie, I'm an extra. Y'all gotta spot me. I'm not gonna tell y'all where I was. I even got to do a little bit of production myself. I got credit for that production. So what I get to take away from it is it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. It's what you do with it, what you make of it, and anything is possible. I'm here today, so.
Susie?
What I take from making this film, maybe just like a little part of Texas, because I really I really loved it. I'd never been to Texas before. It's like a character in itself, and I don't ever want to forget it. So hope to be back. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say piggybacking on that, what I took away from it was the collaborative spirit of everyone involved in this production, from the people who lived in Texas to the people who worked at the places that we shot at to everything. To me, everyone just, in a time that was very precarious, everyone had such a, let's do it, let's find a way to do this. And I will take away that spirit and that heart.
And this is gonna sound real hippie, but it's true. My parents are hippies. Basically, for me, it was almost like the power of surrender, because I basically moved to the desert, right before this happened, and I was like, maybe my acting career's over, maybe it's not, maybe it's time to move on. So I just moved out to the desert, and I kind of let go of the dream of Hollywood. I'm like, hey, I had a good career, maybe it's over. And then right when that happened, this guy calls me. So sometimes it's good to just let go and surrender. I want to say like, oh, stick to your dreams, but sometimes maybe I haven't quite figured it out. But there's some like universal law of kind of like letting go or something, because that's right when it happened. But yeah, I'm a hippie, so I don't know.
So everyone, give up acting, and Sean Baker will text you after this.
Yeah. Just be a quitter.
Yeah, just quit. And Sean.
I just there was something about. This is due to COVID again. It's like forcing us to shoot this way. It felt like a return to that a film back where it was really guerrilla. And you know what? That intimacy, I love that intimacy. And And it just said, to me, it's like in Hollywood, they're constantly telling you, get bigger on the next one, bigger, 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 both in budget, but also every aspect of the film. And that doesn't need to be. I really, at least for the stuff that I do, I found a lot of comfort in working with an incredible group of people who were basically a family for a few months. And that's how I want to do it moving forward. So all good.
All right. Don't get up yet, guys. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me. Susan Koch, our executive director, is going to come up here and do something nice for you.
Hello. Well, I have to admit, I've gotten to hang out with the cast quite a bit, and we were actually drinking tequila while you were watching the movie. But I think they're awesome, and we knew it the minute we saw your film, and we are really honored to present you with this year's Ensemble Cast Award. And so, because it's an Ensemble Cast Award, it doesn't just go to one of you. So I think what I'll do is just give it to you, Brittany, and you can just pass it down the line. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here in Middleburg. Sean, thank you and we want you back for every
Susan,
film
thank
you
you
ever
so
made.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Connie, thank you very much. And all of Middleburg Film Festival, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, guys.
This is your guys. It's yours.